are back. This is Steve Sanson and
Jim Jonas
with Veterans in Politics. Jim, how you been, baby?
Pretty good. It's been an exciting couple weeks. Just at work and pretty interesting stuff going on here in politics. So
yeah, I'm still trying to get used to you being here every other week thing.
Yeah, we're working on that, but I don't see that changing anytime soon. So,
all right, well, that's too bad. I'm gonna have to get Randy over here. Yeah, make him talk.
Yeah.
Randy, you want to talk? No? Okay, good. Hey, you know something? Speaking of a lot of things that's going on in politics, one of those things is that you know how Nevada Power always ask for more money because they have to pay this, pay for that, pay for electricity, you know.
Right.
So in today's paper, you know who was one of the top executives in there?
I didn't read the paper today, but I'm going to guess just by your question or your statement that it was probably an exec for Nevada Power.
The president of Nevada Power makes over $1 million a year.
Okay, so
over $1 million a year. You know, if I was on any board that Nevada Power wants to come and ask for more money, the first thing I'll say is, give me a list of all your executives that make over $100,000 a year. I want to see that, because you're over here. You want to take money away from people that are making $25,000 a year, $40,000 a year with 5 kids, and here you are, the president of Nevada Power is making over $1 million a year. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, it's sad. But then, Steve, you got to look at it from the other side. You know, I mean, look at it from him. I mean, from his perspective, he's probably thinking that, you know, he has to. The reason why he's making $1 million a year is because he has to be the one to make those decisions.
So can a $500,000 a year job guy make? You know something? The president of the United States makes $450,000 a year. He's making a hell of a lot more decisions than him.
Right.
So what are you saying? You want to fight me on this? You want to fight me on this?
No, I'm not fighting you. Actually, my statement was more meant to be sarcastic.
Yeah, the president of the United States makes $450,000 a year. Congress makes what? 140, 164. Senate makes 180, 200,000.
Yeah.
And Nevada Power president makes over $1 million a year. And then every time they come and ask for more money from people that are making $25,000 a year, feeding the family of 4. I think it's some sad crap.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. And like when, cigarette taxes just went up. I know, Steve, you don't smoke, but I do. And so it went up, I believe, 80 cents a pack this last month. And for me, it's, if you want to talk about middle tax or middle income individuals, and they're always talking about, oh, we want to help the middle class. Well, if you want to help the middle class, well, most middle class people smoke. Yeah. So let's not raise taxes on cigarettes.
But that's different, though.
How's it different?
Because they're talking about the health problems that come along with cigarettes, lungs, cancer, right, and secondhand smoke for people that are around people that are smoking that really don't smoke at all. So they're looking at all the medical stuff. You know, speaking of medical stuff, Dean Heller's really trying to rake Congressman Berkeley across the coal with her saying that she was buying favors for her husband, who's a kidney specialist. What do you think about that commercial that Senator Heller's been playing?
Well, it would be, I mean, if I was just going to be a complete partisan on this, I would give him a pass because he's a Republican, and I'm a Republican, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing that kind of frustrates me is it's just kind of par for the course. I mean, if you're in a position of power, you're going to do what you can do to help out, you know, for Congresswoman Berkeley. You know, she's going to, obviously, if she could help out her husband, she should. I don't hold that against her.
Huh. Okay.
And Dean Heller, if he's in that same position, I'm sure he would do the same thing.
Well, speaking of helping out your spouse, and what was in the paper this week, in fact, it was in the paper today. You have Congressman Joe Heck that had a business, and he hired his wife Lisa, and between both of them, they were making $110,000 a year. So since he got elected Congress, he had to dissolve the business, laid off his wife Lisa, and he took a $64,000 pay increase by being a congressman. Now he's making $174,000 a year. And you think he'll be okay with that, right? He just made a $64,000 pay increase, right? But no, his wife Lisa filed for unemployment. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, that's a right to file for unemployment.
But check this out. The point is that they were both bringing home together $110,000.
Right.
Since he dissolved the company, became Congress, he's got a pay raise of $64,000. So he's making more money dissolving the company and having the wife stay home.
So I guess the moral to the story is get elected to Congress.
Now, I guess the moral to the story is that he didn't need to take any more from the taxpayers. He's already getting $174,000 from the taxpayers, $64,000 more than what he was making with his wife. And now his wife gets to stay home. In fact, his wife could say, I'm staying home and I'm bringing in $64,000. But instead, she decided to file for unemployment. See, that's the greed of politics, man. That's the greed. Because I would be happy with it. I'd be like, baby, you staying home and I'm making another $64,000? Boy, only in America, Don King. You know what I mean? But no, I wouldn't have her go and file for unemployment.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the moral to what you're talking about, obviously you wouldn't do that, but
some people don't have any morals, basically.
Well, and that's the reason why we have so many problems we have in this country is because politicians seem to not have morals. Most individuals that run for political office, and I'm not going to say all, but a lot of them, especially the ones that have gotten elected, once they get elected, kind of like the situation you were just talking about with Congressman Heck and his wife Lisa, now they know how to work the system, so to speak. So they're going to utilize that system for their benefit. It's kind of like Congressman Heck proposes a new bill to allow him to be able, and other Congress persons, yeah, to be able to opt out of the Congress pension. And so, I mean, right now, it seems like a really good thing, right?
But check this out. But if Congressman Heck, he doesn't want to opt out of no pension. If he's getting a $64,000 raise from dissolving his company and have his wife go file unemployment, no, he wants to rake in as much money as he can.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's opting out of the government pension because he's going to get the money anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going to sacrifice.
It's like it's like a facade, Right. It's like an illusion. He wants the people to think that he wants to opt out of this pension, but in reality, he really can't. He has to take the pension. He has to take the money. But he'll just go say it, but knowing damn well he can't.
Right, because he's not going to be able to get the bill passed.
Yeah, it's like I'm talking in forked tongues.
Right,
like talking out your ass, basically.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing.
All right, well, those are your words, but yeah.
Oh, you don't think that's what he's doing? Talking out his ass?
No, that's exactly what he's doing, but I'm just not going to phrase it that way.
What would you say?
He's just being a politician. No, he's being a politician.
You see, people like that give politicians a dirty name. Right. Just like bad cops give good cops a dirty name. So, Jesus Arevalo, what's going on? I made that challenge. You need to step up to the plate, babies, for widowers, and orphans of veterans and police officers. And don't say you can't get in the ring, because there was a Metro officer that fought for a Wounded Warrior program at the cannery last weekend against a soldier, and he got in the ring, and he fought for the Wounded Warrior program. You're a Metro cop. Why don't you fight for veterans and police officers or officers of orphans and widows of that particular or those particular groups and get in the ring with me and stop being a little coward.
Well, Steve, I honestly just think he's afraid of you.
That's what you think?
Yeah,
probably.
Well, I know I'm afraid.
Well, you know, anybody that's going to take an AR-15, okay, and pump 7 rounds into somebody's back,
right,
while they're sitting unarmed, pinned in a vehicle, and can't go nowhere, is a damn coward.
Oh, but it was justified, though, Steve.
No, there's no coroner's inquest. District Attorney Steve Wolfson has not made that ruling, and you know what? And I don't think he would make a ruling saying that was justified.
Well, not until after you beat him, right?
Probably. Yeah. Then everybody get their just reward, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, folks, we just want to let you know that the 2 guests are going to be. We're going to have Sonny Bailey, who's a candidate for Clark County District Court Judge, Department 4. And we're going to have Susan W. Scann, who is the Clark County District Court Judge in the 8th Judicial District. And we're going to have those 2 folks on as guests. And while we're talking about District 4, I just want to let everybody know that on July 14th from 4 to 6 p.m., we're going to be conducting the Veterans in Politics endorsement interviews at the Marine Corps Leatherneck Club. And come on down and see who these candidates are and be an educated voter. Don't be an uneducated voter. You know what? Speaking of that, Jim Jonas, did you take a look at the election results?
Well, I was going to...
In the primary?
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, did you see my post
what
on
was
Facebook?
Post? What did you say?
About how horrible the primary election results were, the turnout.
The turnout, yeah.
And how everyone who was registered to vote and didn't turn out was actually disgracing every single military member that fought for their right to be free.
Yeah, that's true. A matter of fact, what I wanted to say is that every single one of our nonpartisan endorsed candidates is in the general election.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you guys. You know, I think we do very good on those nonpartisan endorsements than we do with the partisan one. Because, you know, everybody is a lazy voter. They just vote party and not actual candidate.
Yeah.
You know, who's a Republican or who's a Democrat or who's an IAP? I'll just vote for those. Do you know them? I don't even know their first name.
Right.
They just vote because it's party. I think it's a stupid way to vote for anybody.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of like, I remember you and I having a telephone conversation just maybe a year and a half ago. And the one thing I remember you saying is, like, I was talking to you about who I voted for and who I didn't vote for. And I'm a registered Republican, and most people consider me like a hardcore right-wing Republican.
Right.
And I thought it was interesting when I started looking at that. I voted for 19 Republicans, 17 Democrats.
See that?
And you pointed out to me, like, yeah, because you get it, Jim. If you vote for a Republican just because they're a Republican, but they're an asshole, then what does that make you?
See, I didn't use that kind of language.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, I kind of toned it down a little bit.
All right, well, let's take a commercial break. And let's go and grab one of these 2 ladies and have them come on in here and have a conversation, huh? How about that?
Sounds good.
Hey, this is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas of Veterans in Politics. I believe we're going to bring back Sonny Bailey, candidate for Clark County District Court Judge, Department 4.
Hello,
Hello, my name is Steve Sanson. I'm the president of Veterans in Politics International. This country and state are in trouble with budget cuts, unemployment, foreclosures, teacher shortage, dropout rates, terrorism, and a loss of military service members. The outcome of this election will profoundly affect families, both military and non-military. Military men and women are dying for other countries to have the right to vote. As a former member of the United States Marine Corps and the Army, I know how important it is to keep the voters informed. Log on to the website veteransinpolitics.com. All Americans of voting age need to not only vote, but research your choices. The Veterans in Politics organization has taken a proactive approach to supporting candidates who will have the courage to protect all of our freedoms and our Constitution. Visit our website at veteransinpolitics.com. Don't just talk about who you support. Research your choices and vote.
Hey, listen up. If you're a military veteran, if you're related to a veteran, or if you know a veteran, you'll enjoy the Veterans Reporter radio show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. with me. I'm your host, Chuck N. Baker. Every week, we will explore veterans' issues and we'll have guests who will talk about topics of interest to and about the veterans community. And if you don't listen, you'll have to give me 20 push-ups.
Hello, Las Vegas. I'm Karen Steelman, president of Las Vegas Tea Party, bringing your voice to the air Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Are you tired of politics as usual? Do you want to be more involved? Do you want to put a stop to out-of-control government policies? On We the People, we will discuss the political topics of the day and find real solutions. No parties, no labels, just Americans. Be here Wednesdays at 7 p.m. with We the People on KLAV 1230 a.m., where your voice is heard.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas of Veterans in Politics. We have live in studio Soonhee Bailey, candidate for Clark County District Court Judge Department 4. You know something, Jim Jonas? This is the first candidate we have for this department on our radio program.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's the first one. There are 9 candidates running for District Court Judge Department 4, and I believe this seat belongs to, or did belong to, Kathy Hardcastle, who vacated not too long ago, and basically these candidates had to get 761 signatures. I'm sure Sonny will correct me if I'm wrong. 761 signatures to go on the ballot. All 9 candidates are going to be moving to the November 2nd election to pick which one is going to be the sit-in judge for that particular seat. And I believe the Judicial Committee picked 3 names. It's going to be in front of the governor. But whoever sits in the seat from now until November, they still have to run to be, the judge for the remainder of Kathy Hardcastle's term. So, without further ado, Soonhee Bailey, how you doing, ma'am?
Fine, thank you.
Oh, look at that radio voice. You like that radio voice?
She sounds very...
I was going to call my 900 number up.
She's got a lot of authority to her voice. So, I mean, I haven't even asked you a question, and I already think you're qualified to be a judge.
That works for me. We can move on to Judge Scann.
just by hearing you say hi, he's ready to vote for you. Believe that?
Actually, I'm thrilled with it.
Well, see how much I put into vetting.
Soonhee, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, I was raised in the state of Washington in the Pacific Northwest in a little tiny town that no one's heard of. From there, I attended the University of Washington and then Seattle University School of Law. I have spent the last 16 years in my law practice, 10 as a criminal attorney, both as a prosecuting attorney and as a public defender. I've spent the last 6 years in civil litigation. I've also served as a pro tem judge in Justice Court and in 2 different states, both in Washington and here in Las Vegas.
So who do you serve for in Justice Court?
I've been asked to pro tem and have pro tem for 5 different justices of the peace.
Just throw the names out. Throw the names out.
Judge Kephart.
Oh, yeah, we like Judge Kephart.
Yeah,
yes.
He's all right.
Yeah,
It's great.
Right. Yeah, he's good to go.
And I actually did both.
You know what? If this cop won't jump in the ring, I wonder if Judge Kephart will jump and take his place.
That's funny. You didn't ask me.
Yeah, because you'd probably lose, Steve. But
so, no. Judge, her husband is or used to be a marshal, right?
No, actually, no. He's an attorney.
I'm getting her husband confused with somebody else. I think it's Cynthia
Destin Cruz.
Destin Cruz.
Yes, that's right.
So, Sonny, and that's how do you spell your actual real name, Sonny?
My actual real name is Soonhee, and it's pronounced Sonny.
Soonhee.
You
there's a little spell error in your name on this thing. Wow.
Yeah, had I typed it out, I'd take credit for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that. Yeah, spelling was never one of my strong points. Just to let you know.
Looking at the way my name's spelled, I really can't criticize anybody.
Okay, so you serve for Judge Kephart, and who are the other 4?
Judge Baucom. And I did Judge Kephart. I do.
We like Judge Baucom too. Don't we? We endorse Judge Baucom
yes.
as well.
And I did Judge Kephart, both his criminal and civil calendar.
Okay.
Judge Baucom, Judge Cicento.
Oh, we like Judge Cicento too.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, we've known Judge Cicento for years.
Yes, Judge Sullivan.
Oh, we Diane Sullivan.
Yes, Diane Sullivan.
Yeah, we endorsed Diane Sullivan.
Yep.
Yeah, we know her too.
And then Judge Marshall.
Janice Marshall.
Janice Marshall.
Yeah, she has a special place in our heart, huh?
Yeah.
Special place, yes.
So those are the 5.
Okay, very cool. So what you're saying is that you already have experience sitting on the bench. Is that what you're saying?
I already have over 2,000 hours on the bench serving as a judge pro tem.
Wow. So what would you tell your 8 opponents right now if you had them all in the room and you were talking to them? What would you tell them?
We've already been in a room together. We've all seen each other getting through the signature process. I don't know what part you'd want me to tell them. Some of them already have some pro tem experience.
No, what would you tell them to convince them that you are the better candidate to become the Las Vegas Justice of the Peace? What would you say to them?
Well, I'm not as concerned about my opponents as I am the voters. And what I would just stress is the fact that I already have the experience, not only as a pro tem judge, but in both criminal and civil law. In criminal law, I was both a prosecutor and a public defender, so I've served on both sides, which definitely gives you a better perspective on how the courts run, not to mention presiding over criminal matters, which allows me to tap into my experience as both a prosecutor and a public defender. And then in civil, which is a completely different animal. I don't think you can compare the 2 realms. You have to become versatile in both. And so I have the experience in both arenas that I hope the voters will recognize.
So hold on. I just wanted to just tell her about my question. That was a trick question because that's exactly how I wanted you to answer it. Go ahead, Jim.
No, what I was going to say is that, so how exactly do you get, the way you answer that question is exactly right, but how do you get the voters to actually get out there and get involved with judicial candidacies? Because it just seems to me like it's very, with the primary results, they stunk. There just was not an outturn. So how do you get people excited about voting for judges?
I think the bigger question is we need to get people excited to vote, period. Through this process, we did have to get 761 signatures. And in order to do that, you obviously wanted to get more than the 761 just in case someone wasn't actually registered. I had almost 1,400 signatures, but when I got my form back from the Secretary of State that said how many were actually qualified registered voters, it was only 945 out of that group.
Well, let me ask you, how did you go about getting the signatures? What did you do?
I went to every event that I could that had more than 2 people, and I walked up to people and asked them if they would please sign my petition so I could get on the ballot.
Did she ask for your signature, Jim?
No.
You didn't ask for Jim's signature.
Any event I was told about that had more than 2 people, I went and I asked for signatures.
Wow. And what would you say? How do you convince people to sign and and say that they would support you as a judicial candidate?
It's pretty much what I've already said. My name is Soonhee Bailey. I would like to get placed on the ballot for Department 4 as a district court judge. I have over 16 years experience in both criminal as a prosecutor and public defender and civil. And if they had any questions, I would talk with them one-on-one. One of the advantages of getting the signatures is you were in a one-on-one situation with people.
So, Soonhee, how did you go about, walking door to door, explaining exactly why it's important for them to vote for a judge and exactly what your job entails?
And I went mostly to events, so I was at the Classic Car Show in Boulder City. I would go wherever there was a group of people because I could meet more people. The key with trying to encourage people to vote is, number one, hopefully most average citizens never need a judge. May they never need the criminal system, may they never need the civil system. However, for those who may need it or think they're
Jim
going to.
Jim is not average, though.
But for those who are going to be involved in the system, whether as voters or as witnesses or anything else, you need to get involved with the system, and you want to make sure you have educated judges out there that are going to take part and who have the knowledge and the base to do that. It's not as easy as it sounds. Some people just didn't want to be bothered. Some people were great. Other people, it turns out, weren't registered. But on the whole, most people were very receptive to the one-on-one discussion, which is why that was the positive side of going out and getting all those signatures.
So, Soonhee, another question I have for you is, do you actually think that it is advantageous for the state of Nevada to actually elect judges, or should they be appointed?
You know, I think on that one, the voters have already spoken. They want to vote for their judges. So that is the system that we have.
But why do they not turn out to vote for judges? They say they want to vote for judges, but they're not turning out for judges. So let's look at the primary election is a perfect example. 27, maybe 30%. Okay, so now you're looking at 1 in every 6 registered voters, or 1 in every 5 registered voters actually have a voice. Do you think that's actually a good thing, or should we just go to the appointed system?
At this point, I think you look at it, not just the judicial races that occurred. There were some primaries, out there that it was extremely important that every voter who could get out voted, and it was a poor turnout. I think everyone agrees. I don't have an answer. I wish I did. Right now, it's a process where the voters get to choose. And how do you encourage people to get out and vote in general? I don't know. There's been an education process out there. I think people need to understand that their vote counts, and I think some people may have lost that feeling.
So if you could, just last question for you on this one, if you were the deciding factor on this, would you or would you not approve, should we elect judges or should they be appointed?
Right now, I would say the voters need to choose. That's the law.
Okay.
She's very careful in her answers, Jim.
I've had breakfast with you, Steve. I'm perfectly aware I need to be careful.
Wow. Okay. Soonhee, let's talk about the before I even get into the question, let's just go with your opinion. What's your opinion on officer-involved OIS, officer-involved shootings, and the last shooting, that's not the last shooting, but the last shooting in 2011 that that Metro was involved with, which was the Stanley Gibson shooting. How do you feel about the OIS?
The officer-involved shootings.
Yes.
That's a huge question.
I know.
You're asking me a huge question that there's not even enough time to touch all the different aspects of that.
Just round it up.
I think the first thing you have to look at is, number one, anytime there's an officer-involved shooting or any type of shooting where someone is injured or killed, the impact on all the families and everyone involved, which there's nothing worse than someone burying their spouse or their child or a relative. And so it's horrific. The ramifications are horrific for any kind of actions. The next thing you have to look at is the officer-involved shootings. Each one has a different fact pattern. I don't know all the different fact patterns that are out there, and you wouldn't want me to comment in general on that because it changes with each and every situation, because we know that the investigation involved for any type of officer-involved shooting or any shooting is going to be extremely thorough, and there's going to be a lot of evidence. Then we go from there to the point of the coroner's inquest and all the changes that are being made and everyone's feelings on that, which is a whole nother different topic. So is there a particular one you wanted me to address first?
Well, let me ask your opinion on a question I asked Steve Wolfson, because he sat right there last week.
Oh, is that why the chair's so tall?
Do you believe that officers should be drug tested after an OIS? Any OIS? Whether it caused death or injury, or whether they even missed their shot. The fact that they pressed the trigger.
I haven't even heard that one addressed yet.
I know. Well, before you answer, let me tell you one scenario. One particular answer I received, and I won't even tell you who said it. And this person said that it was against their constitutional right, the officer. And I said, well, you know something? Well, when you put a workman's comp claim in, the first thing they want to do is drug test you. So what's the difference? They can't drug test an officer when he pulls out his weapons and press the trigger and let a round go through the muzzle? I mean, like, that's ludicrous.
My question would be more in terms of where would it stop? If it's just for officer-involved shootings, why not expand it out? You're looking at, then why wouldn't they check every time they're in a car accident, or any time that they're in a high-speed chase that results in a car accident, or then expand it out to other government workers? What are the parameters of that? Where does it end? You're looking at one little area, but it could affect so many different areas as well. What about the fire department? What about the paramedics who respond on the scene?
Okay.
It's more expansive.
All right, well, let's just stick with the OIS.
I would love to look at the research on that, because I've already had this conversation with you before. I love research. I would love to see what other states have done with that. I've never even heard of another state. So absent doing more research, I don't feel educated enough to even give you an answer.
Do you know that there's a couple of states passed laws that said that if you're getting welfare, that you have to take a drug test? I forgot what the two states are. There was two states that passed that law. I forget. But since you could draw welfare and have to take a random drug test, then why shouldn't an officer be able to take a drug test after he pulls out his weapon and fires that round, and let's say he strikes and kills the victim? If I was the family of the deceased, I would want to know if that officer was clear-minded when he pressed the trigger. I want to know if he was under the influence of any drugs. Because he wears a badge and carries a weapon, that doesn't make him God's gift to society. They're all human, and you're human first, and humans make mistakes. And I've known a few officers that told me that they had weed while they were wearing the badge. So I already know this for a fact. I just want to know your opinion. If an officer was to take out his weapon and fires that weapon, should he or should he not, or her, be subjected to a drug test? Should Metro change their policy?
And one of the comments you made I had to stop on, and you said you wanted to know if someone's under the influence of any type of drug or controlled substance or something. Right. That's a whole different situation than just finding out if someone has drugs in their system.
Well, you know something? If you take a look at all the persons that have died by the hands of a police officer, they drug test them. They drug test all the suspects. I mean, look at the last three that Wolfson just cleared. Those three shootings, they named them all, and they said all these deceased suspects were under the influence of methamphetamine, right?
Yep.
So if they could drug test the deceased suspect that got killed with the officer's weapon, why couldn't they drug test the officer that actually pressed that trigger and made that shot?
And once again,
It just sounds like it just works one way.
I think Steve Wolfson would be the better one to answer that question.
Steve Wolfson said, the sheriff would be the better one to answer that. Nobody wants to come and say anything.
Because at this point, you're looking at
I'm
going
to ask Judge Scann when we get around here.
Well, no, I mean, I know where Steve's going on this, and Sonny, I mean, basically, you can't comment on let's just say vagueness or, hypotheticals, but what I'd like to ask you, just in your general opinion, and I think Steve made it pretty much correct on this one, is that why shouldn't a cop or anyone that's being employed by taxpayer dollars have to be asked to take a drug test when they're involved in anything like that? I know in my employment, if I were to cause more than $500 of damage in my employment, I would have to go down and take a drug test. Why wouldn't that just be standard operating procedure for the Metropolitan Police Department?
And that's something the Metropolitan Police Department would have to answer, not someone who's sitting on the bench.
Right. So, but I'm just saying,
I just wanted your opinion.
In your opinion, yeah, we're just looking for your opinion.
Your opinion as a citizen.
And I'm going to stick with my guns. I want more research. I want to see more about what's going on there. I want to see about what the other states are doing, and I want to see what the law says. I'd also be interested in seeing those 2 states with the welfare cases. I'd be interested in seeing the appeal process. I can't believe it just stopped at the lower level and didn't go any further.
So I'm gonna have to ask you one more question on this one, though. So basically, and I like the back and forth. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love doing this show. Is that, okay, so basically you are a judge that does not, if you're elected judge, you're not going to legislate from the bench. You are going to, you're going to apply the law as the legislature puts in place.
Correct. That is the function of a judge.
Okay.
So, Sonny, anything else you want to say?
Thank you for having me. Are there any other questions?
Sonny Bailey, why don't you give us your contact information so the voters can get a hold of you if they...
Sure. They can contact me at my law firm. It's Olson, Cannon, Gormley, DeRusso, but it's actually email sbailey@ocgd.com.
Sonny Bailey, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
It's been an experience.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick her brain, wasn't I, Jim?
Yeah, you are.
This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. That was Sonny Bailey, candidate for Clark County District Court Judge Department 4. And like I said, if you want to see Sonny Bailey, she already RSVP for the July 14 endorsement interviews that's going to be held in Marine Corps Leatherneck Club on Saturday, July 14, between 4 and 6 p.m. Don't go away, folks. We're going to have Susan W. Scann, 8th Judicial District Court Judge.
I'll turn it over to you to...
Did you see the press release Veterans in Politics sent out in support of Clark County District Court Judge Alicia Kadish to the federal bench?
Yes, in 2008, Veterans in Politics endorsed 22 judicial candidates in the primary. Only 4 candidates did not become a judge. This was the same year they endorsed District Court Judge Alicia Kadish. Judge Kadish was one of the 18 of their endorsed recipients that is a sitting judge today.
Yeah, they take pride in their selection of candidates, especially when it comes to our judges. Judges are the first line of defense, and they immediately impact our daily lives.
I wonder if anybody knows that Judge Kadish was appointed to the district court seat by former Republican Governor Jim Gibbons to replace former district court judge Joe Bonaventure.
Yeah, as a jurist, Judge Kadish consistently demonstrates fairness, impartiality, and a dedication to upholding the law, regardless of whether she agrees with it. She follows the law and not legislates from the bench, which is what Republicans look for in a jurist.
Yeah, it is ironic, to say the least, that Republican U.S. Senator Dean Heller is now blocking Judge Kadish's federal judicial nomination because she insisted on following the law.
Yeah, what he is using is a questionnaire Judge Kadish filled out in May 2008 from the group Citizens of Responsible Government. They asked Judge Kadish a question concerning the Second Amendment. The question they ask is, do you believe the individual citizen has a constitutional right to keep and bear arms?
I remember that. Kadish responded, I do not believe that there is this constitutional right, but I believe that reasonable restrictions may be imposed on gun ownership in the interest of public safety. Of course, I will enforce the laws as they exist as a judge.
That was a correct statement of law at the time. Individual citizens did not have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Reasonable restrictions could be imposed on gun ownership in the interest of public safety. Therefore, Judge Kadish's response demonstrated that she was well-versed and knowledgeable in this important area of the law. Moreover, she indicated she would enforce the law as they exist. In other words, Judge Kadish not only understood the law, but affirmed she would apply it regardless of her personal opinion.
Yeah, later the law changed. In District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus City of Chicago, the United States Supreme Court held that the Second Amendment protects an individual right to possess firearms and that this right is fundamental and fully applicable to the states through incorporation in the 14th Amendment.
I remember that. After the Heller and McDonald decisions, Judge Kadish again confirmed that she would be bound by the law, not a personal opinion, and as such, if asked the same question today, she would respond, I believe that there is a constitutional right for individuals to keep and bear arms, and I would make clear that I would faithfully apply the binding precedent on the issue starting with the Heller and McDonald decisions, if faced with an issue regarding these important Second Amendment rights.
It sounds like, in both responses, Judge Kadish confirmed her commitment to upholding the law.
Yeah, now, in a sadly transparent attempt at political pandering that needlessly deepens the partisan divides that already paralyzes our federal government, U.S. Senator Heller has blocked Judge Kadish's congressional confirmation. And ironically, he is now forced to justify his position by arguing that when asked about the individual right to bear arms, Judge Kadish should have assumed activist robes and held that contrary to law. Such a right did, in fact, exist. In other words, Senator Heller must attempt to argue with a straight face that Judge Kadish is not qualified to be a federal judge because she understands the law and will uphold it.
Unfortunately,
We're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones with Veterans in Politics. We have Judge Susan Scann. Judge Scann, how you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Steve?
Good, good. Last time we had you on here, you were a candidate.
That's correct.
And now you're a judge. I got to watch what I say to you now.
I've been a judge for a year and a half now.
Hold me in contempt. There's some craziness. So Judge Scann, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was raised in Salt Lake City, lived in the Northwest in Honolulu, Hawaii for a while, went to law school in San Diego at Cal Western, and I practiced law here for 34 years before I was elected to the bench.
Wow, 34 years. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
That's about as old as you are, right?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
I'm 35, so yeah.
Yeah, you're as old as you feel.
Yeah.
Is that right? How old do you feel, Judge?
About 45.
45. Well, Judge.
I was actually expecting most females say 21.
Oh, no. That would be unrealistic at this point.
Well, Judge, we have different line of questions for you.
Oh, okay.
And, Veterans Court are one of those things that I hold close to my heart. And I remember back in 2009 when it was when Judge Elliott approached me to implement a Veterans Court here in the state of Nevada. We got it passed into law back in June or July of 2009, one of those two. And that the only counties that was actually doing it was Washoe and Churchill. And Clark County wasn't doing it. With all these veterans that are in Clark County, you think that if any county was going to do it, it would be Clark. But Clark County wasn't. And I took it upon myself to go and speak to all the judges, district court, justice of the peace, muni judges, Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, and Las Vegas Justice Court, and also Boulder City, which is only one judge up there, which is Victor Miller. And I remember there was an article that came out, I believe last year or the year before, I forget. It was about the same time Judge Glass was resigning her seat to go work at Show Swift Justice, right?
Yeah.
So Judge Delaney was picking up the specialty court and Veterans Court as part of specialty court. So there was an article that came out, and Judge Delaney made a statement. We need to get Judge Delaney on the show, too.
Yeah.
She made a statement saying that she was going to do the Veterans Court and in district court. But a lot of the judges and I can't mention names because I promised, a lot of the judges said that they were sending defendants to Judge Delaney's specialty court, and there's no veterans court in place in district court in the 8th Judicial District. Why is that, Judge Scann? What do you know?
I know next to nothing on the subject because I'm a civil judge, so I don't go to the criminal judges' meetings, but I know that there is discussion of it, and that's all I know.
Are you going to do something and say, hey, you guys need to, like, pick it up because this is, like, a topic that maybe we should have this veterans court?
Well, I know that
especially your husband
they are
being
aware.
a veteran.
Right. My husband served honorably for 4 years.
You see that? So it's something that's personal to you, right?
Right. It is.
Do you have veterans in your family, Judge?
Only my husband.
Just your husband.
Right.
So, could you make that pitch?
I think it's an important issue too, and I support it. And
could you make the pitch though?
That we should have one?
Yeah.
Certainly. What is your vision of what a veterans court would do? Because I really don't know.
Well, the way
much about it other
the way
than
NRS 176A reads. That every judge is supposed to ask a defendant if they're a military veteran, which that's not being done in every single court. And once the judge put a veteran on a program, whatever the program might be, DUI or drugs or whatever, then after the completion of the program, the case is supposed to be dismissed and sealed, is my understanding of NRS 176A, which I don't think that's happening because I heard with domestic violence, there is an NRS that says you can't seal a case or dismiss a case. So it's like two different laws are now conflicting with each other, which is what I'm getting. And according to NRS 176A, it says that it's supposed to be for veterans that are combat related. And we want it for all veterans because going through some of these operations or going through some of these training, you could develop PTSD going through any of those programs. And I think it should be for all veterans. And it also says that it's supposed to be for nonviolence, but which is DUI unless there's no bodily injury and all that. But I think that a lot of veterans are do more violence than anything than the alcohol if they're suffering from PTSD, which is road rage and assault and battery and stuff like that. So I think that it should encompass a lot more than what it is right now, is my vision.
Well, that sounds like a reasonable approach. I am solely civil. I was elected based on new legislation for 7 additional judges that were to be civil, and so that's what I've done. I've had only 2 criminal trials, and I'm not located in the RJC now, so I won't be having any in-custody trials.
So where are you located, Judge?
In the Phoenix building.
You're in the Phoenix building. They have metal detectors over there, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
But they don't have means to handle persons who are in custody.
Okay. All right.
So, Judge, just for the listeners, explain what a typical day in your courtroom looks like.
Well, I have non-motion days and motion days. On my motion days, typically it'll be it starts at 9 o'clock and it'll end at 10:30, 11, 12. It just depends on what's on the calendar. I went all day on some motions and just
9
one case
o'clock in the morning till 10:30?
Until 10:30 or 11.
In the morning?
In the morning, right.
That's it? And you're done? You have to go home and play golf?
No, absolutely not. Because for every motion hearing that you have, I have to read all the paperwork.
Okay.
I have a law clerk that prepares a brief for me, but I read every brief myself. And I read the cases as well, the major cases that are cited as well, because I want to be able to understand the area of law that I'm talking about.
So, Judge, you actually read this stuff?
Absolutely.
You know, we should have you in Congress. That would help us. If you actually read this stuff, that's
I do.
Cool.
Well, I'm a business court judge, too, and I think that it's very important because the issues that come into business court are not everyday issues. A lot of them are very sophisticated, issues that require thought and study, and so that's what I'm spending my time doing if I'm not in the courtroom. And I don't go home at night until 6:37 or later, depending upon what I have to do.
Do you get along with all your colleagues?
I do. We don't have as much opportunity for interaction as one might think because everybody. I'm in a department in a building with only one other judge, and everybody has their own area in the courthouse, and we get busy just trying to keep up with our caseload. And if you're in trial from 9 in the morning until 5 at night with a lunch break and a quarter hour, and then you've got to read for your motion calendar on top of that. so that doesn't leave a lot of time.
So how do you feel about Judge Kadish being nominated to the bench and being blocked by Senator Heller?
I think that is awful. She is a highly qualified judge. There isn't anybody that has said that she is not a very intelligent person. She follows the law. She is very hardworking. I have had the opportunity to get to know her because I campaigned with her in 2008, and also because we share courtrooms. We don't have enough courtrooms right now. I would share a courtroom with her for 6 months, one morning a week, so I'd get a chance to talk to her. And I've had opportunities to go out and socialize with her too, and so I know her. She's kind of mentored me to some extent as a new judge, and I know that she is a highly qualified individual. The judiciary needs highly qualified individuals. Politics should not come into that equation.
Judge Scann, you say you do civil, so that means you take care of elections as well. And there was one election case that came before your courtroom. That was the then Councilman Richard Churchill in North Las Vegas running against dentist Wade Wagner. And basically the incumbent, North Las Vegas former city councilman Richard Churchill, lost by 1 vote. The vote was contested, saying that the person that cast that one decided factor was in a different precinct, and he cast his vote in the wrong precinct, whatever the case might be. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, because I know this case is done and gone. But just
it's my understanding it's on appeal.
Is it on appeal?
Yes, that's my understanding. I mean, I made a decision, and it's my understanding it's on appeal. So I can't talk about it.
You can't comment at all?
No, because if it's reversed, if it comes back to me...
How's the family doing, Judge?
They're doing really well. Thank you. But I will say one thing. I give reasons for why I decide what I decide. So...
Could you give a public reason? I mean, the reason why your original ruling is already public, right?
I'm trying to think... We do not write opinions in the district court because we have so many cases that we really can't. Sometimes we write decisions in orders, and I think I did write a decision in order. I haven't looked at it. It's in the public, but it's available under in the court records in Odyssey.
So could you say, well, since it's online, could you say the reason why you ruled the way you did?
I'd have to go back and look at all the facts again, because factual findings that you...
Generally, could you say the reason why you ruled the way you did?
I don't really feel like I can comment any more than that to say that you can see what I ruled online.
Well, I can't get nothing out of that, Jim.
Well, Judge, I got a question for you.
Okay.
And this is just, where do you see, I mean, you like being a judge.
I definitely do.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for those of us who like the career path that we're on, what do you see your career path being? I mean, would you like to just keep moving up? Would you, one day want to be a Supreme Court justice? I mean, that's the highest thing in your profession you could try to be, right?
That is the highest thing that you can be. If I'd run for election 10 years earlier, perhaps. But I see myself staying in district court, and I enjoy district court because there's a lot of variety there. I enjoy doing trials. I enjoy the interaction of motion practice with lawyers. I also enjoy the book side where you read everything, where you study the law, where you try to figure out what it is, because the job of a district court trial level judge, we are the ones who lay the groundwork for the formation of the common law, and then our decisions are appealed to the Supreme Court of Nevada, which is where the is made. But frequently, we don't make law, we follow the law. But in Nevada, there isn't a lot of law on some issues. So sometimes you're presented with, 2 different common law decisions from different branches of the courts in other jurisdictions, and you have to decide which one you think makes the most sense, given Nevada is Nevada and what you think the Supreme Court will do based on earlier decisions, if there are some. So those are decisions that we have to make, and then the Supreme Court, of course, if there's appeal, will choose which one they choose to follow. But we are the groundwork.
Is there anything you want to tell the listeners out there, Judge?
Well, I invite people to come to court, because you can come to court and sit in public hearings and see what goes on. And I encourage voters. I know voters are interested in voting for judges, because the ones that I talked to when I was running expressed that. Get out and get to know those candidates, because you can... you need to know the candidates because they're not screened by a panel like they would be if they were appointed. And I'm not saying anything about any running candidate because I'm really not even sure who they all are. But it's your right to exercise your vote. Exercise it based on knowledge.
And what department are you running for, Judge?
I'm not running this year.
What department are you in?
I'm in Department 29.
Department 29.
Right.
Thank you so
29.
much. 29.
Right.
Thank you so much, Judge Scann, for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
That's Judge Susan Scann, District Court Judge for Clark County in Department 29. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, Veterans in Politics. Until next week.
To the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea.
Views and opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.